Bill Hemmer, Department of Homeland Security, offering a one-way ticket and cash for those who choose to self-deport from the United States.
Where did you get the idea for reopening Alcatraz?
Just an idea I've had, and I guess because...
That's right, you heard that correctly. The Trump administration is prepared to pay $1,000 per self-deportation, and we will break down how much money that actually means for an illegal immigrant. It's a lot more money than you think. But also, reopening up Alcatraz. Now, this is actually a worst case scenario for Democrats, and you'll see why in a second. We'll break that down. Let's dig into this.
Offering a one-way ticket and cash for those who choose to self-deport from the United States, along with a chance to return, while those who fight deportation will never be allowed back in once they are kicked out. The agency says it will save taxpayers money in the end. President Trump gave a preview during his one-on-one interview with Rachel Campo-Stuffy just about a month ago.
We're going to give them a stipend. We're going to give them some money and a plane ticket. And then we're going to work with them. If they're good, if we want them back in, we're going to work with them to get them back in as quickly as we can.
Now, here's where things get very interesting, because there's a lot of debate on whether or not $1,000 is even worth it for any illegal immigrant to leave the United States. Well, I did the math for you. You can let me know how you feel about this in the comments. $1,000 in pretty much any South American country is worth about 3 to 5 times more the amount than you would make for your average monthly wage. So it's a lot of money. But when you go over to an African country, especially northern African countries, $1,000 is worth about 12 to 14 times more than you would make in a typical month working in one of these African countries. Some of these other countries, 10 to 12 times more. So it's a lot more money than you think. But the best part is you have the chance to come back. And in America, we all know it's about chance and opportunity, and that's invaluable.
Yeah, Dana, good morning to you. So Fox News can report exclusively that DHS will announce today that they're going to start paying for the commercial flights of illegal aliens who self-deport from the U.S. And on top of that, they're going to pay them an additional $1,000 stipend once they're confirmed to have left the country. Now, DHS says doing this is going to be significantly cheaper for the American taxpayer. They tell us that right now it costs on average about $17,000 to arrest, detain, and deport someone. They say paying for self-deportations and the stipend will only cost about $4,500 per person. That's about 70% cheaper. Aliens are going to have to register to self-deport on the new CBP Home app to access that DHS financial assistance, as well as announce their intent to leave the country. DHS Secretary Kristi Noem tells Fox in part, quote, "If you are here illegally, self-deportation is the best, safest, and most cost-effective way to leave the United States to avoid arrest."
So, as you can see, the dollar amount is very fair for everybody, because even if you don't agree with the deportations, you are still paying for it, but also now illegal immigrants can be paid for it as well. But this is the most important thing out of all of this.
I think people are finally getting the message: if you leave on your own, you can take advantage of legal programs, come back. But we have to go through the process of formally deporting you. There are mandatory bars against you for up to 20 years, sometimes forever. So, if you want to take advantage, come back as a worker, a tourist visa, a visitor's visa, a student visa, or have a U.S. citizen child if you have one, petition for you in the future. Leave yourself open to the opportunity of legal entry. Do things the right way. There's millions of people standing in line right now doing things the right way. Taking the test, doing the background investigations, paying their fees. They're sitting in the back seat, while millions of people are allowed into this country under the Biden administration that simply don't qualify for asylum. Most of them will lose that asylum claim. So while they're clogging up the whole system, in addition to those who want to come in legally, while the millions of fraudulent asylum claims under the Biden administration, there are people in this world who really are escaping fear and persecution from the homeland. But they're sitting in the back seat, too, because millions of people cheated the system, coming across the border and released in the United States. That caused a significant backlog in immigration court.
Finally, the Trump administration has figured out how to get the upper hand on Democrats. what other country in the world will pay you to report yourself for committing a crime, and then you get to come back to the country the legal way, or you will have the chance? The Trump administration has finally figured out the most moral and fair way to do this. Again, Democrats don't care about saving money. They don't care about the transactional value of the taxpayer dollar. They care about plucking people from the streets. You're separating the families. Well, now finally the Trump administration has figured out the middle ground, and Democrats don't have an answer to this.
So many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, that came in illegally. That would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening. And it's long been a symbol, Alcatraz, of whatever it is. I mean, it's a sad symbol, but it's a symbol of law and order. And, it's got quite a history, frankly. So I think we're going to do that, and we're looking at it right now.
All right, now the fun part of the video. Please leave your comments down below how you feel about Donald Trump possibly reopening Alcatraz. And let me tell you something, Democrats are very, very annoyed about this. We will dig into that. I just want to mention this prison was shut down in 1963 because it was a royal pain in the butt and it was expensive to maintain. Let's dig into it.
Congresswoman Pelosi, she had a different thought. She said Alcatraz closed as a federal penitentiary more than 60 years ago. It is now a very popular national park and major tourist attraction. The president's proposal is not a serious one. Is this something that is being discussed loosely, or is there a plan to actually make this happen?
Our country, Dana, was founded on innovation and out-of-the-box ideas, and I think that this is a great idea from President Trump. He also mentioned in that post that this is symbolism, just like Guantanamo Bay. Historically, Alcatraz was used to house the worst of the worst, and that's exactly what we're doing at Guantanamo Bay and could potentially do at Alcatraz as well.
Yeah. This is why the Trump administration is very, very good at what they do, because now the entire media, we are all focusing on Alcatraz, but you forgot to focus on this part.
Many of these radicalized judges, they want to have trials for every single, think of it, every single person that's in our country illegally, that came in illegally. That would mean millions of trials, and it's just so ridiculous what's happening.
So I hope this is starting to make sense. Do you really think it's a coincidence that Donald Trump is talking about putting illegal immigrants in Alcatraz and also now giving a chance to illegal immigrants to deport themselves for $1,000? This is about the judges and due process. If you want due process and all of these judges are trying to create a problem for Donald Trump, then you can have it. We may possibly fill Alcatraz with a ton of illegal immigrants and the judges can deal with it, not the Trump administration, because regardless, they are going to be deported. So I hope you are seeing this has nothing to do with Alcatraz, but the media is focusing on Alcatraz. This has to do with flooding the prison systems, specifically in areas where judges don't like Donald Trump and they want all of this due process, then they can deal with the due process.
Can we ask you, Tricia, how many illegal migrants are in Guantanamo Bay right now?
There's a couple of hundred. We continue to move these folks out and get them to their country of origin or a third country that agrees to accept them, because these are hardened criminals.
Rikers Island is similar to Alcatraz in the sense that it's an island surrounded by water. I think the comparisons stop after that, but there's a plan to close Rikers here in New York. Would this administration take action on Rikers?
I think everything's on the table. I'm not going to get ahead of Secretary Noem or President Trump, but this administration is one of law and order, and we are getting these criminal illegal aliens off of our streets. We get reports that come in every single day to see who was picked up. We have child molesters, rapists, murderers, arsonists, you name it. There are people who have been in this country for far too long, committing crimes and terrorizing our communities, and we will get them out, whether it be Rikers Island, Alcatraz, Guantanamo Bay, or another detention facility. These people will not be on our street under President Trump and Secretary Noem.
Now, I also have to point this out, and this is why the Trump administration is very, very good at this. They speak in generalities when it comes to a concept or a plan. They never give you the full details, or they never fully say they're going to do something like, we might open up Alcatraz, but then all of a sudden the media says, oh my gosh, we're going to open up Alcatraz. But on the flip side, the Trump administration does give the specifics of the amount of people who could be in Alcatraz and the judge who has the jurisdiction of Alcatraz. This is where the Trump administration is very, very good at either misleading the media or seeing how people receive what the Trump administration might do or might not do. Just something to think about.
GOP who say that Trump should run for another term. In May of 2021, for a second term, 66%, the clear majority of Republicans said, yes, he should run for a second term. Compare that to now where it's just 44% who say he should run for a third term. This is simply put just not a popular idea. When you're getting this fight back from the Republican base to a degree that we simply put have never seen before, you get the idea of why Donald Trump came out yesterday with his most forceful comments to date, saying, you know what, really, it's 2 terms for me, because even on this particular issue, he does not have the Republican base with him. And when it comes to the overall population, I'm going to end the same way I started. It is about as popular as the idea of New Coke was in the mid-1980s. Simply put, nobody wants this.
So this right here is a clear example of how talking in generalities really disrupts the left-leaning media. Because as you can see, CNN just reported on Donald Trump possibly running a third term. And as you can see, people don't want him to run a third term. So behind the scenes, they even had to waste time going through the polling to show people, you see, but at the end of the day, the Trump administration really wins here because they got CNN to waste their time even talking about this.
What do you think the symbolism is here? Is this just some weird nostalgic throwback? Should we be reading something more into this? It seems like somewhere between a distraction and maybe something significant about, again, his disdain for rule of law.
The latter. In fact, 3 months ago, the reliable Donald Trump Jr. Did what we call in my area of work a trial balloon. He posted, hey, maybe we should reopen Alcatraz. And then the MAGA world picked it up, and then it became a thing. And that's what propagandists do. They dump something as a trial balloon, a little floater, and then it becomes possible. And it becomes like a thing you could think of doing. And then lo and behold, now he wants to do this.
I told you, I was not making this up. When Donald Trump floods the zone and he speaks in generalities, the media is now really digging into this. Oh my gosh, are we really going to reopen Alcatraz and then cross-correlating it to Donald Trump Jr., who is Donald Trump's son? So obviously they talk behind the scenes, and who knows what's going on behind the scenes? They probably know they are about to troll the entire media, and it's working.
So that's a good example of this process that authoritarians do. The other is that, sure, look at these priorities. We're cutting Social Security. We're cutting child welfare. Catherine, you wrote an op-ed on the war on children, and I'm writing about this too. It's just totally tragic. And yet there's money to not just reopen Alcatraz, just refurbish it. Like it's another real estate deal for Donald Trump to refurbish it. And so this shows you the priorities of the regime, which is, mass incarceration in the worst circumstances possible.
Now, this is very crucial, and this is very dangerous for Democrats. You could argue, actually, this is your fault. You keep asking for due process, and now there is a way to deport yourself and get paid for it and come back to America. Well, if you want this due process, what about everyone in America who's waiting for their own due process? There are people in jail right now who can't afford the bail money. They're waiting there, waiting for their due process. So if Democrats now all of a sudden care about the prison systems being flooded, that is what's going to happen, and that is what Democrats have really been advocating for. Because if you came into this country illegally, especially if you committed another crime, you're going to end up in jail, and you're going to be there for a long time, and you might end up in Alcatraz, even though I think we're not going to open up Alcatraz. Now, the last thing I want to point out is Stephen Miller is also talking about deportations and getting paid for it. Whenever Stephen Miller is talking about something or signs off on it, Donald Trump has even said he's one of the most valuable assets as far as these deportations and security to the nation. If Stephen Miller is signing off on it, it's most likely really going to happen. And who knows, that dollar amount might go up as well. So if you are still watching this video, thank you so much for everything. God bless. And make sure you guys leave your comments down below below how you feel about this. Again, I really do think this is the checkmate the Republicans needed against Democrats. We'll see what happens.